chair for the board. This time, we'd like to introduce the other members of the board. On my left is Catherine Finner, followed by John Ginyard, John Gregory, Marcellus Primus, and Celia McIntosh. I'd also like to introduce the staff that assists the board. We've got Hope Hasty, zoning administrator, Erica Hyen, deputy zoning administrator, and Sky Robinson Barnes. All right, the board is charged with hearing applications for special exceptions, variances, and administrative appeals. All testimony is recorded for the record. Anyone wishing to speak will need to be sworn in and come to the podium to speak. No testimony can be taken from the floor. When you come to the podium, please state your name and please speak clearly into the microphone because the meeting is being recorded. Applicants with cases before the board are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time does not include any questions asked by the board or staff regarding the case. Any member of the public may address the board in intervals of 3 minutes or 5 minutes if you're a spokesperson for an established body or group of 3 or more. The applicant then has 5 minutes for rebuttal. The board reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so those of you who plan to speak must be sworn. So if you are here as an applicant or if you're here to speak in any case, please stand at this time and raise your right hand. Okay, do you affirm or attest that the testimony you will give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? Okay, thank you. This time we'll turn the meeting over to staff.
Okay, so we'll start out, good afternoon. We'll start out with the consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda is the approval of the November 3rd, 2022 meeting minutes. Next item on the consent agenda, case 2022-0038V, 737 Gadsden Street, and it's a request for a variance to the maximum front yard setback for dormitory use. Those are all the items on the consent agenda. Would any member of the board like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
Anybody? Okay. Would any member of the public like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Okay, so we've had a little confusion in the past, so let's just be clear. We're getting ready to take a motion on this item, and so now is the time. If anyone wishes to speak or say anything, the item would need to be removed from the consent agenda. Otherwise, we're going to move forward. All right, I see none. I'd like to ask for a motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the regular agenda. We've got case number 2022-0039V. This is 2419 Pendleton Street and 2446 Millwood Avenue. And it's a request for a special exception to permit a residential care facility. And we do have the applicant here and several of the applicant's representatives to present the case.
Thank you. All right, would the applicant like to approach?
Hey, my name is Michael Wenzinger. I'm with Goa Mills Kaywood, and we're representing Julianne Avon and Mercy for this case.
Okay, thank you.
So the property we're talking about is 2419 Pendleton Street. There's actually 2 parcels in 2446 Millwood Avenue. And so one condition of ultimately approval would obviously be consolidating those parcels for purpose of developing the property. And we can just give you a general overview if that works. We're happy to go criteria by criteria if that's helpful, but we can kind of just focus on what we think is probably the most important. And if you have any questions, just let us know. We can go back through those. But the project is a youth supportive housing program. It'd be a residential care facility under the special exception and zoning criteria. The house will be about 3,000 square feet. You can see on the site plan, that's not fixed or set in stone by any means, but it's just sort of a general vetting of the property to kind of see how we might lay it out, how it would fit. But the house is generally residential in nature. It's 2 stories. There would be 10 individual bedrooms that would serve 10 women ages 17 through 24. There'll be a staff office, living room, kitchen, kind of basic essentials for the facility. It will be monitored 24 hours a day with staff on site during that time. One of the bigger things, I think, looking at, I think it's criteria 2 early on in the list, but is, as outlined in the zoning ordinance, are just criteria we have to meet for special exception. And so like under residential care facility, there's licensing, a loitering control program, neighborhood communication program, business plan, and then some other criteria under rooming house or boarding house. And so we've met all those criteria. Licensing is not required by DHEC for this facility. It does fall under residential care facility, but it's not like technically what it is. It's just sort of a broad category that we fit best within. Loitering control program, we provided some documentation to that effect. But obviously, just house rules and the business plan kind of speak to that as far as having it monitored, and people aren't allowed to just like sit out on the porch and smoke or anything like that. And then visitors and stuff all have to be checked in and approved with the facility, and so it's a very controlled program. Neighborhood communication, so we have reached out to the neighborhood association. They support the project. And there's a recent article in the news, I think yesterday, several residents in the area also voiced their support of the project, which is great. And so, we're looking at investing about $1 million into the neighborhood, and it's really good to have their support. We're excited about the project. Business plans in there as well is pretty detailed and kind of goes through specific requirements. And Julianne's here too, so she can probably speak better, to that than I can if you have any specific questions to that regard. There are no individual kitchen facilities, and then being accessed by a common hallway. It's not exterior access; it's all interior. And so, I think we meet those those requirements pretty clearly. Items we've talked about in the past. Is looking at like a proliferation of this type of facility. I think the site we're looking at currently is further away than we have been in the past as far as previous applications, and so I think that does address that adequately. There is one other facility over on Washington Street. It's about 11 blocks away. If you look at the scale of downtown, that's pretty significant. As far as the size of where we can be and be reasonably located to amenities and facilities that would help support the residents of the house. But also being as reasonably far away, I think, from the other facilities, so they're not proliferating or creating a density of that special exception use. The house will be generally aesthetic in character. I think it's great having an example on Washington Street because you can kind of see what it'll be. Obviously it won't be exactly the same as that, but it'll be similar in that it'll look residential and fit in with the general aesthetic of the surrounding area. As far as like other nuisances and traffic control and just general criteria, the program is very quiet in nature. If you walk past there now, they monitor it really well. We went by to take some pictures of it, and they stopped us and said, "Hey, who are you and what are you doing?" We said, "Oh, we work with you." But they really do control it really well, and it's just a quiet house, frankly. So I think it'll blend in with the residential kind of nature of that area. MU1, I think it's a really good fit for it. Talk about mix of institutional, residential. I think this fits in really well, where it's effectively a hybrid of those things, and so. It seems like a good fit, and this is what we're bringing before you guys today for your review and approval and discussion. So, any other questions or anything you'd like us to address in more detail or specifically?
Well, thank you. I think your application was very well written and did a good job outlining the different criteria that we use to judge these special exceptions on. So I personally do not have any questions. I'm sure some other members of the board may.
Okay, great.
Nobody?
Let me ask one question. I'm just thinking about it. Just reading through the application, and I guess you guys were directed towards this zoning MU1 just at the.
Yeah, and that's been ever since I think it was Andrew Livingood way back when we did the Washington Street property. It was CU1, I guess, back then, which with the new transfers MU1 or MU2. But and so that's where we've been directed to by the city in the past as far as this type of facility. And I think if you read the description MU1, it's basically a mix of all those things. So it's kind of a little consolidation of that intent. So I think it fits well.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions?
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. Would any members of the public like to speak on this matter? Okay. Come on up. You came in after, you've not been sworn in, have you? Didn't you come in a few minutes late?
Yes.
Okay, we need to have you sworn in before you speak. If you would, please raise your right hand. Okay, do you affirm or attest that the testimony you will give today is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I will.
Okay, thank you. All right, please state your name.
My name is Vivian Armstead. I live at 906 Oak Street, 29204. I'm president of the MLK Lower Waverly Neighborhood Association.
Okay.
I have met with Mercy about the petition to have the 10-unit space on the Pendleton Short Street area. And I have conversed with our executive committee for the Neighborhood Association, and we are in full support of this going forward. We know that in this city we have a problem with homeless. We have a problem with mental health. We have a problem with housing, period. And so if we honestly say that we want to address it, but every time it comes up, nobody wants it in their community, then where are we going to put it? So when we looked at what is actually going on in that area, my teeth are clicking too. I had dental work yesterday, so excuse me, getting used to this partial. But what's going on down there is counterproductive to the community as it stands. So those that have voiced opposition to it, and the executive committee has spoke to them about, do we just leave it as drug-infested, gang members, and those types of things. There's a church down there. There's people that's trying to live and be productive members of society. So if we don't change the community, and the particular lot that they're talking about already has commercial entities on the Millwood side. So it's not like it's encroaching into the residential part. The only concern that some people have expressed also to me is that if this goes forward, what type of expansion would they be looking to do and put more of that in the community? Now, they do have concerns about that. But as far as this petition for this particular project, we're in full support of it.
Thank you for your testimony. Okay, would anybody else like to speak?
Good afternoon. My name is Alex Snipe. I'm the owner of Glory Communications. We own the building right next door to this proposed
Can we get you to
site.
speak a little closer to the microphone? It's being recorded. We want to make sure that.
Yeah, I got to work on that.
Yeah, thank you.
I own the property right next door to where the proposed facility is to be built. I own the two properties right across the street from where it's going to be built. And no one has spoken to me about it. I am in support of improving the community. This proposal will not improve the community. That is a troubled area. I have been at 2440 Millwood since 2000. My business operates there. We operate 4 radio stations out of that community. We have served Columbia since 1993. In 2018, I bought the property across from this property, 1107, 1109 Short Street.
Okay.
Our property, the one property on Short Street is depicted in the photos, but the business next door is not. I disagree that it's not going to make the community better, because what it's going to do is bring more troubled people into that community and house them there. Their friends, their families that come to visit it. It is going to decrease the economic value of that area. It is certainly going to decrease my investment in my property. I'm investing in that community because I believe in it. I want to see it improve, and I think that those in the community that speak for it, they're seeing the good that it's going to do for those young people that may come through the program and go on to positive things. But it's also going to be unsafe for them, because they're going to be, if you've ever been there, because I own the property next door, I'm down on the weekends doing maintenance. Constant sirens, ambulances. So you're going to bring more troubled people into that environment and think that you're going to do a lot of good for them. They need to be someplace that is more protected that will provide them another optic as opposed to what they're going to see there. When I bought the property in 2018, there were just homeless folks living in one of the buildings next door. I had that building torn down, and I fenced in the property so that we could make it a better place for the community. There's a little less traffic. This is just going to bring more pedestrian traffic of troubled people. So I'm against it for those reasons.
Okay, thank you. Okay, would anyone else like to speak? Okay, all right, well, thank you. Well, would the applicant like a couple minutes for rebuttal?
I'm Julianne Avon. I think y'all probably recognize
We do.
me. I'm getting good at this. I would just like to say, I'm sorry I didn't talk to the business owner. I thought I was doing the right thing. I'd worked with city staff, found out who was the neighborhood association. So I do apologize to him for not going to him. You know, the folks that we will house there are not necessarily all homeless. A lot of our referrals into our youth home that we do for males are young guys that are still in high school, but mama's got a new boyfriend and doesn't want him to live there. And so we'll get a call from the school social worker, and we've had numerous people that's been the instance, and they're able to finish school and go on into jobs. And so while there may be some that enter literally homeless, that's not a requirement, and it's not at all a requirement for there to be a mental illness. When we started this program back after our visit to Salt Lake, it was to intervene early for kids that have had some type of trauma that is resulting in becoming homeless or at risk of homelessness. And what we've seen is if we intervene early, we can break that cycle of becoming chronic homelessness or lifelong mental illness. So it's not like everybody that lives there is going to be coming in off the street, and not everybody's going to have a mental illness. We're not set up for that to be. This isn't like a management kind of home where you're managing problem behaviors that somebody may exhibit as a symptom of an illness.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
All right.
Okay, well, that'll close our public discussion, and guess I'd like to open it up for board discussion.
I'll go
Okay.
first.
Go ahead, Sue.
Nobody else wants it. No, I feel like this is actually a pretty good site for this. Just where it's located, proximity, I think it will be kind of good for the area to have something fresh and new, you know, that looks like progress and that people see that. I mean, I was a little concerned at first about the way you access the site, but the site plan kind of took care of that, and so it feels like it kind of would make sense, you know, overall, from every side to kind of respect the Millwood side and the residential side, so.
So do you feel like they meet the criteria for the special exception?
I think so.
Okay. Catherine?
I felt like, I think this is an extremely good thing. I thought the point that they made that there are at least 11 blocks from another similar site, it really does defeat the concept of it's not proliferation.
Certainly.
And I think that was the biggest concern we had on the other site they were hoping to go for.
That was,
And I think I was also extremely impressed with Ms. Armistead's comments. I thought that, you know, I've often suggested, I live over near Maxie Gregg Park, and that I'd much rather have some of these people living near me than some of the students I have living near me. Certainly quieter, a little better maintained, but I really appreciate your civic-minded notions, and you're correct. I think this is a very good program, and I think that it sounds like it's homelessness prevention, and that's a very worthy thing. I think it's a very good project.
okay. Who else?
I agree that it's, it does meet everything. I think the concern of, I remember from previous applications by Mercy that there isn't a lot of loitering and hanging around by the people there, so there isn't this sort of potential for nuisance of the neighborhood and exposure to more potential. And so I feel like it does bring up, and you might take people out of the community that are there now and make them better, so it does improve the community, but at the end of the day, I think it does meet all the criteria for it. Special exception.
You might even argue that there's going to be less loitering because of this when you have a vacant site,
Right.
based on some of the testimony we've heard today. Marcellus, what do you think?
I mean, I'm in agreement. I think they meet the criteria for a special exception. I think it's going to be good for the neighborhood as well.
All right. John Gregory? You ready to make a
You
motion?
want to make a motion?
That's you.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the special exception to establish a residential care facility at this location, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Good luck with the project. Any other business today?
Those are all the items on the agenda. Thank you.
We have a motion to adjourn
Move to adjourn.
and a second.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Good meeting.